Hello and welcome to lesson number 57 in our current micro series in Lockdown 3. Today is Monday the 29th of March 2021 and some of our restrictions have been lifted today so that groups of up to 6 or 2 households can actually meet in their gardens. So on that sense of optimism, we shall be looking at the optimistic study number 57 in the book of 60. This study is in C major, like many in the book, and that's definitely a bright and optimistic key. It says it's a study in semiquavers for the left hand and the bow. Of course, your mind will straight away be looking at all these very tricky looking patterns in high registers and also in high positions on the lower strings. We'll come to that left hand shortly, but let's first consider the bow, since it is mentioned in the title there, and also we've been given 5 variations. I would definitely suggest a 6th, by the way. So let's find out what we've got there. The study itself is separate bows. And the first 3 variations of the bow are actually interlinked. So they are looking at putting in a slur for 2 notes within the group of 4. So the first variation, we slur the first pair. In the second variation, we will slur the last pair. And then the third variation, we will slur the middle pair, which is a lot more awkward. And the awkwardness is partly just, going against the grain across the string and or an up or down in the middle of the group, but also potentially, I think it's because it's looking at patterns that are not so obvious within the squareness of the 4 notes. But thinking about why, why have we got these bow variations? It isn't just for the sake of trying out bowing in those directions. It's actually to help consolidate and confirm the kind of shapes that we create in the hand and between consecutive notes or fingers. So that, for example, in the variation 1 slur, we'll be slurring on the perfect 4th in the 3rd beat there, and it just gives your mind a little bit more of a notice of the shape between those 2 fingers to get a good interval there. And that general idea throughout could highlight shapes and patterns within the left hand that you may not have realised beforehand, or slurring or something like that. Shifting, just knowing where to shift. So that's why we've got those particular variations. The 4th variation is a lot more square, in that we've got a pair slurred, then a pair tucked, and this one's quite a nice one to flow through the study, so it might be quite good once you've established where your different patterns are to use that one to go through it in a fluent way. The 5th variation is quite commonly used. It's a dotted rhythm, and so he's popped in there this rhythm, but we're missing its counterpart, which should be a Scotch snap. And that between the 2 of them, those dotted rhythms, you're effectively practicing every other pair at speed. So that you can see that in the Scotch snap version, we are practicing going from the C to the E, quickly putting on the little finger, and in the other version that's printed, so yeah, we're practicing getting out of that top note, for example, quickly onto the subsequent note. And practicing any kind of stretch of semiquaver passages in that way, the dotted rhythm where you've got the long note first, then the short, or the other way around, which we might call a Scotch snap, the short note first and then the longer one. As I say, it means that you're actually practicing all of your moves for the left hand at the fast speed, but only every other couple, so that it gives you plenty of chance to really feel it without being panicked and falling over. Okay, so that's really where we are with the bow. I mean, really it leads quite helpfully on to the first of our left hand issues, which is actually the use of this little finger for this high E. Of course, using the little finger in this upper register is fairly rare, but it needs to be practiced and understood that it's available and that you can use it, and it will slightly distort the hand shape and rising up to that top note. We're only going to use the fourth finger in this area of the cello, this position, in the first couple of bars. We're right across in the C string as well. Don't let this put you off if you're thinking, actually you find that very difficult to get that little finger on. You could, for example, in the first bar have a new solution. You could do nudge shift, stretch, in which case then you've got a very nice and perfectly respectable solution to that first bar. The subsequent bar, the second one, maybe try the little finger this time. Getting the little finger over on these two strings, you can see my arms are much further over to give a bit more support to the little finger compared with on the A strings, a little bit more of a strain and a stretch to catch that. So I'd say have a go at the fourth finger in that second bar, even if you don't in the first. The second bar has also actually highlighted another problem, that we've got a little chromatic rise on the C string. Now at this point, I would keep your second finger on this E in the high register here, and then do a nudge shift with the third finger, F natural, F sharp, before you get the G. That way your second finger is there to come back to. Now it can be a little bit tricky to push that third finger to nudge, and it might feel like it wants to stick. You could do a second finger nudge, which might be easier, which is fine. Just have to remember to move the second finger back again, a semitone, to return to the E. Now that same kind of problem, but a little bit more extended, is occurring in bar 12, where we have now a chromatic move on the C string from this C. So that this chromatic rise, we're not used to it, you know, it's not something we practice so much at this register, at this location, but do try it. And the tip for you is to keep a nice high left arm so that you can actually do the shift to the second set there. But this move onto the E there is actually further than you think, and by raising the arm up it should make it more easy for you to move those fingers towards the floor far enough. Okay, next thing that we might be usefully looking at for the left hand, I think actually it's bar 6. So that bar 6 we begin with a little bit of D minor, then D flat major. Now your second finger's on an A flat there. It's now renamed, so stay there. It's renamed G sharp. And you hear here a lovely bit of whole tone, which we occasionally come across in these studies. It's a lovely moment, enjoy it. Just don't be put off by the enharmonic change there. You're staying put, your fingers are already over the notes. And then maybe worth momentarily considering, as we're going into 7, the first finger really pushing back against the thumb for that C natural feels a little uncomfortable. I think the rest of it rises up fairly straightforwardly. At bar 9 we have a little sequence falling. And that sequence, although it might look a little bit worrying, it's actually really nice, comfortable geographic prediction in there. And that is, it's actually based on a diminished seventh, which in itself may not be enough information for you, but it means that where your first finger has been, your third will go. Where your first has been, your third will go. So there's a lovely daisy chain feel that the hand is expecting on moves there. The next point that I think is worth bringing up is actually about the pattern that occurs in bars 10 to 11, which is the fourth line down. I mean, you'll notice throughout these studies, I refer to bar numbers. None of them are printed in. You just need to write your pencil lines, so your pencil marks in there. So bar 10, we have a lovely falling sequence here. The problem occurs that the bow perpetually plays 2 notes on the A string, 2 on the D, 2 on the A, 2 on the D, and you feel like that, coupled with what you're hearing, you're expecting it to be like that all the way along the line. But watch out, in bar 11, second beat, it's not. It's only 1 note on the D string, and then we're straight back up to the A string, and that change in the pattern could trip you up, could make you think, oh, have I got a bit of coordination issue or something like that, and it's actually because the prediction about where the bow is going to go hasn't been clocked. It does not fall into the pattern just for that 1 beat. Okay, anything else of use? We're nearly at all the things that are of interest, I think. Could be bar 16, the very top of the pitch range that we're dealing with here. That when you're in such a short string there, we know very, very little left of the string to work with. A fairly light bow and relatively near to the bridge to find the sweet spot in your cello. Don't be afraid of it, but just don't try too hard and I think it will come out better. Okay, so I do believe that's probably all the things of true interest. Let's have a go at the whole study then. It's a rather lovely one, this, possibly the most challenging in the book, but really worth the effort. So do have a go.